fixe aussi, en fixe.
Ouais, tu vois.
Après on clique sur
Not sure if it makes a difference, but you know, we can push the brightness.
Ah, bon, oui. Après on filme en continu. T'en dis, hein? Ouais.
Parce que la limite on peut le faire que sur un et expliquer sur ici, c'est bon.
What specifically would you like to see? This is just
Like you do
a range of the same
Ouais,
things.
track legs, etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was okay before, but we have too much information.
Yeah.
Information on
Okay,
this
well,
page.
we'll just run through the same thing. I'll look at. I'll just invoke the flight legs. In that part. So look at. Probably what we got? Scandinavian 525. Okay, I'll look at sending his level up then to 370 so that we get a conflict in this area instead of risk. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Not sure what specifically else would you like to see. There's anything else in the vertical aid window or the conflict and risk? I'll just have to pause it because you'll start to get a lot more traffic. So.
Tu peux voir quoi? Ouais, c'est les d'accord.
Ah oui. Comme ça?
Ouais, c'est parfait, c'est nickel.
Peut-être on peut faire comme ça, et après on peut faire ça aussi. Je montre.
Ouais,
Tu peux cliquer comme ça.
attends. Ouais,
Tiens. Et après on fait ça. On entre ici le rouge.
ok.
Et on peut cliquer là aussi sur.
Ouais.
Non.
Ouais, je pense que c'est bon. Ok.
Profile's been updated here, showing exactly what the aircraft's doing. Here you can now see the position symbol that's coming from the radar coupling of the track now that he's inside our airspace. We've actually got this guy and it will continue to force the profile to be updated according to the current position. So we don't look at MCTD as just flight plan conflict. It really is tightly integrated with the rest of the system information that we have, especially important for 4D. It wouldn't matter in 2D because it still has the same coordination constraints of entry level and exit coordination level, and that's really the only thing that we're probing on in that environment.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Not there that he checked the clear flight level, but the exit flight level is still the same. Okay? So the profile will calculate where the aircraft will climb to reach this flight level, this exit flight level.
What I should have also done, I'm being a little bit lazy, is I should have told the system that I was going to impact what I was doing to force it to rework the profile. So just not operating it correctly. Okay, so I'll go back and I'll view my EC's conflicts just so I can see how they update. if I want to try and now solve the conflicts, there's not a lot that I can do through the card. All I can do is display the conflicts and go, yep, that's very nice, I can see where they're going. But if I'm going to do something about the actual conflicts, I need to get onto the aircraft and start to manipulate and update their flight data. Okay, so we'll look at a few ways of solving these conflicts. As Celso showed you before, we can take the flight leg and we can just drag it so that it's clear of the area, and we'll do a probe on that position there. Okay, now because of the rejoin algorithm and where we've got the aircraft, I can see, well, I've still got some conflict there between those aircraft. So no, I won't. Oh no, I will take account of those modifications, and then I might just do it again, and I'll pick that flight. I'll pick it up and I'll put it completely around that area. Yeah, I'll take that. Okay, much better. Do I want to do that? Yes, so I'll accept that. So you can see it's still working with the MCTD, even though I'm not, in specifically the MCTD window. I'm simply doing a reroute of the aircraft using the graphical tools. And that's how I would do it if I had no MCTD considerations. I would still be updating the aircraft the same way, but the tool is tied into what I'm doing. Okay, so I'll take that, and you can see that solved the conflict that I had here. I still have a conflict with Speedbird 792 between this aircraft, but now this one is very happily sailing along and he has no conflicts. So that solved the problem for that aircraft. So now I would start to again use the same tools, and I'll work now on this aircraft. I'll look at, okay, I can pull up his flight leg. I can look at it, see where the conflicts are, and go, well, at that level, I have no conflict on the segregated area. I just need to give him a little bit of a vector around there, or a little bit of a mended track. So I might do that. I'll select the flight leg. I'll just push him off there. I'll do a probe of that. Okay, I've still got a conflict in there, so I'll accept that, and then I can just keep going and updating the track until I've got a clear of conflict. Now, it doesn't take into account any coordination constraints that I might have across the sector, so you really have to handle those separately, but it still is integrated. If I reroute the aircraft, as I have done with this, it will now cancel coordination here, it will re-coordinate automatically with this sector, send the information in the flight lists. He'll start seeing the MCTD pop up if there's going to be any conflict in his airspace. So it's really, it all works together quite reasonably. Let me just open up that card again so you can see what's going on. You can see here we've got the two different conflicts, number 22 and 18. Oh, we've got a bunch more now. They're not numbered sequentially because these are all of the conflicts determined in the system. And it says, well, only these numbers are appropriate to this control position. So that's the only place that it's addressed them to. If I had all airspace on here, then I would see all of the conflicts. So it's a nice way of reducing the workload, because these are the only ones penetrating my airspace that I have the responsibility for. Again, a universal sort of colour is applied. Celso talked before about the coordination colours. So this pink track means it's one in my window, it's just in the coordinated stage. I'm not controlling it, it's not assumed yet, but I still have the choice of having it displayed in this window for consideration for MCTD. We don't see several aircraft in the vertical aid window at once though, because the card looks at all of our MCTD conflicts. The vertical aid window is specifically the profile for one aircraft at a time. I can look at doing a display of different aircraft quite easily. I can just click it, and it can open the window temporarily, so I can have a look at it, and then when I let go of the button, it'll revert back. So I can go to each of my aircraft, just click them once, have a look at the vertical aid window. There's, unfortunately, it's about 8 months old, this release of software, so with the window being small is a software bug, so it has been fixed, but not in this version yet. So normally it would open at a proper size, so I can quickly check that profile. I can come to this aircraft, I can quickly check his profile and make sure that, you know, and because the MCTD is displayed in that window, it's really easy to determine, you know, where if I have a true conflict or if I'm going to do something about it. Okay, there's one we can see where some potential conflict is being flagged. Here's our exit flight level, here's our cleared flight level. They're nowhere near the levels of those other aircraft, so it's only possible. If I was to change his exit flight level up to 370, then I should change the nature of that conflict. So just for fun, I'll put his exit flight level up to the level that should be in conflict, so I'll pick 370. And depending on how long it is before he gets to my airspace, it's going to, it will show me eventually where the conflict is. Okay, now here you can see, because it's dynamically updating, I've managed somehow just to avoid that. So I really need to change his, I'll put his clear flight level up as well. Same thing. Okay, and that now picks up the conflict. I just happen to pick a flight that would climb well enough that it would actually miss all the conflict. So I'll force that up with the CFL, and that will then show that
This
to
is
the
one thing
controller.
that you do not have to do, okay? Put the aircraft on conflict.
Yeah. Why not? Okay, you can see our plan is starting to get, because he has a lot of sectors, you know, he's starting to get a lot of conflict notified to him. These ones, there's a, again, you can see they'll only be posted to the executive once they reach this point. Some of them he might find not so interesting, and he can say, well, I don't really care about that one, so I'm going to, I'll just acknowledge it, and I'll do something about that later.
And in the medium term, will it be fused with a data link, or?
Yeah, well, we already do some integration of data from that's downlinked. So when an aircraft sends us a position report, that will update the 4D position of the track. So we are already starting to integrate this data.
That's probably as good a general information as I can give you. I'm just thinking of time constraints and stuff for film. I don't know what else you'd like to see that you want to record before you want to have a look at it in more detail, if that's what you like. Up to you guys.
In a few moments, we have also STCA between the flights, short-term conflict detection.
It's based purely on the radar.
Yes, it's based on radar. I think it's between 561 and
When they might actually miss because I've given that guy a route amendment.
Ah, yeah.
So it might have actually lucked into some separation. Maybe we could just look at...
Will the system see 100% of the conflicts?
Yeah, there's a limit to the number of conflicts that you can post to a controller.
Okay.
But it will detect them all, and then it will it assesses a priority. An EC predicted conflict is the highest priority for display, and then a PLC predicted, then an EC risk, PLC risk, then potential. So if it's going to drop information, it drops low priority targets first. But there's the capacity for tracks. Do you remember the numbers? I think it's something like 1,000 tracks can be displayed on an MMI. So if you can control 1,000 tracks at once, you're far better than the land. Because I max out at about sort of 20.
If you reach this number, you have to check the controller, not the system.
Yeah.
Okay, and the difference between a risk and a conflict, because I heard something about 8 nautical miles. So does the system tell you if there's a conflict at more than 8 nautical miles?
It can, yes. It depends on the separation standards that you offline define.
Okay.
On the let's say we have crossing tracks, or not even tracks that's coming like this. So you only have a short area of lateral infringement.
you could say that the acceptable standard is 8 miles, or you could say the acceptable standard is 12 miles if an aircraft's navigating via DME, or it's 15 miles if he's using this equipment, or if he's a non-jet aircraft. So you can set up to 5 different standards for any situation.
And who decides of this?
Normally, well, ultimately, our customers set their own data, so they have the end user responsibility. But you know, we advise and set default values in the system. But yeah, it's up to them to analyse. And really, it depends. You can get very, very specific. You know, 2 tracks. Well, this is the lateral separation to apply between these tracks. And so it's, you really customise it for each different area.
So conflict will be less than 5 nautics, and then risk will be more than 5?
No, it's the conflict and risk, the difference between the two is on levels.
Okay.
If you had 2 aircraft that conflict in the lateral or longitudinal domain, if there's an overlap between their cleared and their actual flight level from the mode Charlie, then that is seen as a actual conflict, a predicted conflict. And we apply a buffer. Let's say that one aircraft is occupying 310 and its current level is 307 and it's in a 300-foot band. We then apply 1,000 feet if that's the appropriate standard, or 2,000 feet if they're non-RDSM, between the highest level of the other aircraft. So that might be its CFL. And so as long as the CFL doesn't go above 300, there will only be seen as a risk of conflict, depending on the levels. Once it actually does push into that, it will then automatically change to a predicted conflict. And so you'll see some of these, as we modify the level, they'll swap from predicted to risk and back again.